I'm the cable company. Reroll.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is September 11th, 2025. The time now is 6:09. We'll call the meeting to order. Hi, Chris, roll call, please.
Commissioner Agawamba, Commissioner Ahmed,
Here.
Commissioner John Grass,
Here.
Chair Lewis Miller, Commissioner Messias, Commissioner Mukalil,
Here.
Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Schultz,
Here.
or Acting Chair Schultz.
Thank you. All right, can you, if you can please stand, if you will, for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next item. Any additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda?
Madam Chair and Commission, there is no additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda.
All right.
Chair and Commission, we'll need a motion to adopt the agenda.
Okay. Anybody? want-
Commissioner Nelson, I move to adopt the agenda.
Commissioner Mukalel, seconded.
All right, Commissioner Nelson opposed the agenda, seconded by Commissioner Makalel. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? All right, motion has been adopted. All right, we'll now proceed to approval of the minutes from the August 14th, 2025. Any concerns with the meetings? All right, we'll approve the, any motion to approve the minutes?
Commissioner Nelson, I move to approve the meeting minutes.
Commissioner Mukalel, seconded.
Did I have to say that again twice? All right, Commissioner Nelson, seconded by Commissioner Makalel. All right, we'll proceed with the business. First item is discussion on equity lens for council reports.
Chair and Commission, we will need to call for ayes and nays.
I did have one thing on the minutes from last time. Sorry. I've raised my hand, but I didn't say anything.
Okay, sorry, I didn't see you.
I was actually here for the minutes, and it says I was not last time.
Oh.
And I voted on the minutes. I came in after the roll call, which is noted, so I voted on afterwards.
Got it.
Isn't your name on there?
So yeah, it says I arrived after the roll call, which is correct, but then it doesn't have me voting afterwards.
Thank you. Chair and Commission, I will make those changes. All right, so we have, I think we have a motion and a second with the changes, and then we'll do the ayes, right?
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed say nay. All right, the minutes have been approved. Okay, so now to business discussion on equity lens for council reports. Chris, I'll hand it over to you.
Madam Chair and Commission, thank you. So we're going to have a continued discussion on the proposed equity lens review. Just kind of, again, why an equity lens? Savage is committed to inclusion, equity, and transparency. And equity lens helps assess impacts of decisions on diverse communities, particularly when we're making policy decisions, kind of broad decisions like that. We also have this included in the 2025 CC work plan. It's goal 4, connection to the community. So why use an equity lens? This prevents unintended harm and exclusion, or hopes to prevent unintended harm and exclusion. It helps work towards more fair access to representation, promotes thoughtful, informed decision-making, helps us create a shared uniform language for all of our staff and community members, embeds this into our processes, and just makes equity kind of a core part of our process. We have same stuff for financial considerations. As we are making decisions, it's something we must all think about. One of the things that kind of drives what we have for the equity lens is, who benefits, who may be burdened, are there unintended consequences, has groups, particularly underrepresented or historically underrepresented groups, been engaged, and does this reduce disparities or increase access? One of the things too that I've always found is really helpful for staff for kind of these more broader goals is that it's easy for them to comprehend and it's easy for them to respond to, particularly we're looking for answers that are short and effective. Stuff that is, a 12-page, select A, go to B, then go to Q, gets confusing and becomes onerous on it. So we want this to as easy as possible for staff to effectively use. And again, kind of what's driving us is that equality versus equity sort of lens. As mentioned before, we had initial discussions at the leadership team on this lens, just to start kind of talking through what they feel their staff may have in terms of responses or thoughts or worries. I think that helps sort of guide kind of what our discussions has been and will help us when we look at rolling it out across the organization. One of the things we heard was difficulty identifying who's impacted and how. There was some conversation around some of the work we do, particularly the financial stuff and other examples like that. There's really not an equity consideration because there's a very clear statutory requirement for how we need to do this stuff. If I'm going to sell a used truck, there could be a reach for equity considerations, but basically there's A, B, and C, and D, and that's how we have to do it. So just being mindful of that as we look at those responses. There's concerns over subjectivity in responses. One of the things we talked about is staff will, particularly me in this process, will help staff as they're submitting those reports to review and provide maybe some good language or help them think a little broader about kind of some of those impacts there. Staff all recognizes there's limited resources. We'd like to reach everybody all the time, every day. We don't have the staffing capacity or the financial ability to do that. So recognizing that there will be times where we'd like to talk to more people or we may need more time. We just can't do that all the time, which is something I think we need to acknowledge, but also doesn't limit us and we can continue to try to do better. There's also, as part of this process, there's uncertainty about when to apply the lens in the policy process. I think that kind of leads into our conversation later on about kind of where the CEC feels this should be utilized by our staff. There's also fear of encountering problems that can't be addressed by equity assessments, which I think is a really great response from our staff to say, look, there's these big, broad problems that we don't know how to address right now. So one of the things that we do is we start working at it like small bits by small bits by small bits, and someday we may accomplish those. So just acknowledging that. Also continued challenge of reaching communities that we want to reach, but time and time again, we're just not hearing from. So that's something too that we also wanted to talk about. But again, kind of with that broader scope of after a certain point, we may reach that tipping point and then we'll get contacts that will help us get inroads on those communities. So racial equity lens review worksheet. What you see now is the kind of fourth iteration of the worksheet, fourth or third or fourth, one of those two. We've been talking about kind of some of the things we want staff to be mindful of as they sort of work through these big policy ideas is community impact and inclusion. Who is most impacted or affected? We want to be mindful of equitable outcomes. So does this improve or does this worsen disparities? Sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. So just be mindful of that too. What revisions and mitigations, like what can we change or what can we adjust in the process that will actually improve the equity outcome there? Also, what about the long-term impact? So that's something we tend to, cities are pretty good at thinking sort of long-term in terms of what we're doing, but generally that's with just some area focus of will we have the infrastructure or will we be like financially okay to do this stuff? So bringing in equity in those considerations there. This worksheet is based on priorities identified in the READY report, and it has been updated to include language that is directly from the READY report and also has updated demographic information so we can better sort of help our staff think about who they should be mindful of as we continue those, as they sort of consider those policy questions. At our last meeting, we kind of talked about some of the broader questions that come from this. I think we had a really good discussion there about like when we choose and who we choose in terms of contractors and such. I think this equity worksheet still meets what we're looking for. Something else that we talked about too was there was the addition of the demographics last time that was Savage, Scott County, and then Minnesota generally. Excuse me. There was a request from one of the commissioners to just as kind of a additional interesting information to get what our surrounding communities are. So I have that in front of everyone too. So that's our neighboring communities comparison data. The one thing I did not include, Credit River. It's such a new city that they did not have a lot of their specific information. So I don't know if the commission wants to sort of chat through this for a period of time and see if there's anything additional they want to talk about here. I do think it's really interesting information just to see how we relate to our neighbors. So I'll open it up to the commission at this time.
Thank you, Chris. This was wonderful. I just have a question. Can you go back to the previous slide, please? Yep. So here, the second to last bullet point, fear of encountering problems that can be addressed through equity assessments. Can you give some examples of what that might look like?
Chair and Commission, I think that's a great question. I think one of the things you think about is like poverty or health disparities or inaccessibility to educational support. So it's kind of the stuff that's adjacent to these issues we were talking about, but the city can't directly influence. There's a lot of stuff like that that we bump into doing, day-to-day city work. Like I think health disparities is a really great example of that, or like mental health support, that we can do some stuff, but kind of as we're structured and kind of what a city does, we don't have a lot of additional ways to support people. A lot of times that can just be saying, well, we can help direct people to, Scott County, Minnesota, et cetera. But there are those big things that we need to acknowledge sometimes as we're having these conversations that exist, put pressure on the system, but we can't directly acknowledge through our day-to-day work.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful because I was trying to think like, do we need some examples spelled out, like for instance, X, Y, Z, that might help bring clarity. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Chair and Commission, I think that's one of the things we kind of talked about. It was really interesting in those conversations is kind of these big level things. And I'm trying to work to keep it kind of something that a general line staff can kind of handle and work through, because again, all those things, if you start saying, well, like hunger and health disparities and poverty, it's like, oh, people are gonna lose people if we have them start focusing on that. So parts of that we can address as we're going through the equity lens, but just kind of being a resource to those staff to kind of redirect what they're focusing on for those specific policy impacts and projects. I think that's kind of where I will serve as that role for them.
Okay. All right. Any thoughts from any of the commissioners? Commissioner Nelson?
I just want to reiterate what I said last month, and that is I want to thank the staff for their courage to go forward with this. Perfect is the enemy of good, and I think speaking for myself, moving forward on an equity journey can be frightening for fear of misstepping and doing more harm than good. And I've also learned that if I can't get past that fear, I can't learn more and do better. And so I just want to thank, if you'd pass that along, the staff for being willing to try this, and emphasize that when I look at this worksheet and the efforts, the fact that the team is willing to simply ask the questions, I think is great movement forward. Less, even if it feels like, oh, we're going to get bogged down in all of this, just asking the questions makes you consider. And can you remind me, I know this is designed for staff, but had we discussed at all possibly the commissions and city council having a single question on their agenda each month or something?
Chair and Commission, so that's one of the things we also want to talk about. So we have the Equity Lens worksheet that kind of help guides those discussions or sort of thinking of the staff. We also then have how we want to implement this. So there's a number of options. At the last meeting, I had 4. The first one was the do nothing option, just kind of keep working as we've been working. I would say I heard a pretty unanimous approach to drop that one off future slides there. Second option is, well, I guess now our first option is to not include in the council reports, but utilize the CEC more as an advisory committee or more of a review committee as opposed to an advisory committee, much like a planning committee does. So if there's a project or some sort of major policy discussion, bring it here, have the CEC give their equity input, and that kind of serves an equity lens. Second option is implementing equity lens for internal reviews, but just don't include it on the council report. And the third option would be to, as part of this, is have it as a council report item. I have examples of what our current council reports look like with the equity lens consideration included. So as you see currently, we have financial or budget information, fiscal impacts, alternates, action recommendations, and then we're proposing putting equity considerations as kind of that final question there. So that's what I've seen a number of other cities do. They call it different things. They call it like community impact, et cetera. But I think equity considerations is kind of what this commission seems to have wanted to put out there, pushing that kind of this is an equity focused item. So I think that's something that we wanted to discuss tonight too. So we have kind of the two silos of discussion, which is the worksheet, see if there's anything else you want to add there, any language we want to change, and then where the CC thinks this should be inserted in the policy process. Kind of what the next steps of that too. So once we kind of finish those conversations, we will bring it to a council work session in the future and have that initial discussion with council about what their thoughts are on this, what would they would like to see, much like we did for the public display of flag policy. So bring them in as partner, talk through what they're comfortable with, talk through how they want to see this information, and go from there. So at that, I would say I would open it up to discussion from the commission.
Thank you for reviewing those.
Thank you, Chris. Any commissioners have any thoughts on what was shared or before we go into discussion? Commissioner?
I have a comment and a question. The topic to me makes sense. What I'm struggling with is what are the specifics? What specific goal do we have, or what specific problem are we solving? And the reason I say that is anytime you do something new, an easy answer is, we don't have the resources, or it's too much work. And I'm looking for incremental steps. I'm thinking that this is not an initiative, but this is how we work. And to me, that's the difference between how we work versus, this is an initiative. I'm thinking for any change management, the folks that are implementing the change should really be planning what is it that they see. So without getting into a lot of the details, I'm thinking each of the departments within the city, if we can provide them, like you're doing with this form, let them identify what does it look like and what's the pulse. And I don't want to go down the path of prescribing till we know what the pulse looks like and what is the status. And the status might be different for different departments, right? I did read through the stuff that you sent for the other cities, and that was very helpful. So that's what I'm thinking. It's not a huge change, but somehow we have to get to a point where this is how we work. And more specifically, what I'm thinking about that, when changes like this become part of who we are and what we do, it really sustains. If it's an initiative, then when the leadership changes, it might get thrown out.
Yeah. Chair and Commission, I think kind of my initial conversation with staff was kind of that checking in and getting their pulse for it. What my initial iteration to them looked like was different, because I think that was one of the things is they're like, I don't know how to measure this. Like, this seems squishy. What do I do? I think one of the things is we do want this a little bit flexible and kind of like how we apply it, how we interpret it. It would be nice if we can maybe determine some ways to measure what success looks like. I think that's something that would be interesting as part of this conversation, particularly with council, to say, what does success look like to you, council? And kind of the same options out here. What does success look like to the CEC? We should probably continue moving down this line. I suspect there'll be a couple months before this is actually in implementation phase, because I think we'll probably have one or two back and forth with council on the during work sessions on this, just to sort of tailor what they want to see. But maybe that's one of the things that we start talking about too at a future meeting is, what does success look like from the CEC? How would we measure it? One of the things we tend to do sometimes is, how many people filled this out? How many times was equity taken into consideration in these processes? It may seem simple because it should be always taken, unless there's not kind of a, one of those statutory things or there's not much there. But that does start, you start seeing it 140 times, and it starts making an impact there in the organization. So that could be something we also talk about. I don't know if that's something we want to talk about now or in a future meeting. Open for broader discussion on that.
Commissioner Agunoba?
This is fantastic. Thank you for doing this. Coming from my sort of educational perspective, providing an example would be really helpful, I think, just because if people have not done something like this and just, gone through the process of evaluating a policy or program or whatever, this might be helpful for them to refer to and say, okay, this is what it would look like. So that's just a suggestion to provide that.
Chair and Commission, so that's one of the things, so I helped implement this in Richfield. So we will have a number of examples. I'll do a couple trainings. I'm going to record some so people can go and reference it too. It's really interesting because it seems really scary to staff. They don't know it. They think they're going to be penalized by it. This is basically the organization community saying, this is what we're going to do, and we'll support and help you through this process. And I think one of those things is we'll do some workshops for staff on it, talk them through what like a normal staff report would look like, and just kind of what examples look like. Because I think initial conversations from particularly some leadership teams, people are going to write paragraphs. Don't write paragraphs. Like, be great. I love that you're considering it that much, but that's not really what we want here. Like, there may be some specific projects that, there is a bigger equity consideration that we should make sure we have it well documented and supported, because council ultimately gets to make that policy level decision about here's the impacts. You make the choice. Some of it we can remediate with additional costs. Again, council, you get to make that decision. So I love that. I think we will create quite a number of different examples. My plan would probably be one for each department, just so they feel some ownership on it in the process.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think if I can add to, I really like how Commissioner Sheriff, you mentioned about like standard work, like how do you apply this on a day-to-day, and like giving those examples and what a success looks like. I know that we do, when you do the annual, I think it's the annual survey that we do send out, that can be a way of determining too, like what does a success look like, and maybe how, I don't know if that also goes to staff too, like to see like when you're doing part of your annual review is some of the surveys that go to staff, anonymous or not, like, do you ask those questions in like how maybe they're viewing things now based on like how community is reporting, these concerns or things of that nature that might be a source of data that you can provide for the community. And then something else too, I think I understand like the fear of like, missing, of giving the wrong information or having to like do so much documentation to cover the bases. Yeah. I think it boils down to humanity. Like if you are this person with, for example, a disability or like with a hearing impairment or with language barrier, like how would you want someone to address your concern? I think when it just boils down to like the basics, that can be helpful into how these things are looked at, because I think a lot of times we look at things on how it contributes, it affects the broader community and not those who are impacted. But if you look at that if you look at maybe view someone who who is different than you and how they would, that service or that whatever you're providing, that service or commodity would affect that individual, can help you to start changing your mindset, which I know it can be hard because change is hard, but I like that it's not punitive, it's how can we just change our mindset so we can serve people better.
Chair and Commissioner, I think that's a great point. I think one of the cool parts we will start seeing from this is initially, so there's groups we have not been doing a great job in contacting with and communicating with. But at a certain point, you've written, we haven't contacted this group, or we haven't talked to them. You'll start taking that into consideration as you're planning what that project timeline looks like. So then you do have the time to reach out intentionally, give them time and space to respond, and have those conversations. So it becomes something you're like, I should build that into this project. I think you see really good results from that.
So really want to appreciate the city's commitment on this. As we progress, proactively Is there a way we could have the citizens aware of this progress, ongoing basis? So, in such a way that people feel more confident. Otherwise, we do all this work and people are not aware of it. So, we might have some articles,
Yep.
but ongoing basis, we use social media, what are the news channels, what is happening. So that will build a lot of confidence in the citizens.
Yeah.
Commissioner Agonamba?
Yes, so I just wanted to add to, and I know this might be pushing it because I know small steps is good. Referencing the Harvard Chan School of Public Health document on the basic number 1 equity lens proposal, 6 and 7 I think would also be really good additions because that kind of gives an opportunity to do the next steps. What are we going to do about what we've observed based on this, looking through the equity lens? So 6 and 7 say, 6 says, based on the above responses, what are the possible revisions to the policy, program, or decision under review? And then 7 says, what next step is recommended and how will it be advanced? So it's just a suggestion maybe to think through that. Again, I know that might be difficult. We're starting first steps, small steps. But this is something what can we do about the problem if there is a problem?
Thank you.
I had one more
Commissioner,
question, if
yep.
I may. I was looking at the comparison data, and there are some numbers that I was surprised, so I'm thinking there's an element of, education and sharing this. The median household income really surprised me as we look at Savage. I didn't know Savage was higher than Burnsville or Bloomington or for that matter, Shakopee. Per capita income was also surprising. So I guess what I'm getting at, a lot of times, if I was to take 10 people cross-section, I would bet that they'd be surprised for Savage.
Chair and Commissioner, I think that's one of the things that we will continue to tell as part of this story, because I think that's one of those things. I was surprised by the information, and I think I've pulled similar information for this group before, and I was like, really? We've really not done the comparison before. So I think continue to tell that. I think staff would be really interested to see that too. Kind of helps us understand our community better and kind of what their needs are, where they're at, what they want from the city. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah, and if I could add one more point, I think understanding these numbers might help with some breaking down some preconceptions. So if you look at the foreign-born, there might be a preconception if your city has a more foreign-born, there might be more of funding challenge or income challenge. And that's not the case here. So to me, it says there are a fair amount of white that are struggling financially, as I look at that. So it would be interesting to look at the reasons and the comparisons. I think this is a great tool, so thank you for giving us that.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see it broken down by race, actually, race and ethnicity.
Yeah.
Right. So Chris, you've also asked, talking about the worksheet. So is there anything in particular about the worksheet that any commissioners have any input other than what's been shared? Okay.
I think so. Chair and Commissioner, what I heard is I think Commissioner Agawamba wants, as part of maybe our next review, we could add the Harvard 6 and 7 questions. We can discuss at the next meeting. So I plan to bring that back. Anything else? I know this is one, the neighboring communities comparison data. This is one I pulled as just kind of something interesting for us to look at. I think this is great information. I think it'd be a lot for staff to work through, kind of at the level that we want. So as of right now, I think we will just, unless sort of the CC wants to explore this more, I don't think we need this additional supplemental information in the worksheet. Again, my intention is to keep it within one to 2 pages. If we want to continue to grow that, I think that's something we can check on after the first year and see how we're doing. But that's, I hope I captured what the discussion was here.
So then just to add on to the last point here, Chris, so for long-term impact then, can this question then be asked then to to the community during the survey? I can't recall if there's an equity question in the community survey that goes out. Is it annually? Can some of these questions be included to see if we are capturing what the city is doing, city staff, and what the community are?
Chair and Commission, we will look into that. We are currently evaluating when we do that community-wide survey. It is very expensive. And we're looking at options to do it. So see, it's something we do in-house. But I do think one of the things that we've been limited by is if you use these survey companies, you get, I can't remember if it's 2 or 3 custom questions. Okay. And they consider equity to be one of those custom questions. So I think last year we had some unequity question, but I think to add another one, we'd have to talk through what are the priorities of the city at that time, recognizing we already have one. So that'd be something we can work with communications on in the future. I think we're scheduled to do the next community survey in 2027.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so then we can, if there's nothing further there, then we can go to the item number 2. Discussion on Savage's Welcome Week plan. Chris, I'll hand it over to you.
Chair and Commission, I just wanted to take this time. We have Welcome Week, our tabling scheduled for the farmers market this coming Sunday from, I think it's 8 to noon. I think we have shifts covered from 9 to noon. This is basically just an opportunity for us to talk in this public setting if there's anything else that we need to do. I think I have everything pulled together for the group. We have 2 signs for the Welcome Week. We have tables, we have swag, we have candies. I have a copy of the proclamation. So I think we have everything covered, unless the CEC individual commission members want to chat about any of the plans for that. But I think we have a good system in place.
Okay, Commissioner Nelson. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for everything you did. We kind of shifted gears on Chris halfway through to try and simplify. Did you mention, you had said something to our smaller group about brochures that would have a way to reach out to the city?
Chair and Commission, let me show you the brochures I have.
Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't mean to make you get up.
No, I'm proud of these.
Just for context, we were, Commissioner John Grass had asked about if people want to be further kept up to speed on what we're doing with equity work or interest in future events, how would we capture that information? And apparently there's already an answer.
Chair and Commission, we have our Welcome to Savage brochure that we'll be handing out. So this is also the brochure that you gave input on and helped design. This goes to all our new utility rate or utility account folks, so any residential and commercial. So that not only has kind of a summary of the city, it has kind of like highlights of city amenities. We also have basically a greetings from the mayor and then where to sort of find us and how to follow us. So I think it's a really great opportunity to hand to residents that have a question about us. There's a URL here on the top that you can scan to make sure that you are sort of signed up for our updates. Something I also forgot to add, we updated the Meet Savages Community Equity Commission brochure. So I kind of prettied it up, add kind of the summary of what the CEC is. I added information on successes in the past year, listed the current members, and then the purpose and how to get a hold of the CEC. So we have 2 fun handouts for the CEC members to have at the event. I'm so happy you reminded me about these.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Anything any commissioner want to add about the Welcome Week? And Chris, I missed last meeting, so remind me, did you all discuss about the proclamation? I know the previous year that had gone through City Council and that was handed to CEC. Was there discussion on that?
Chair and Commission, yes, we had the Welcome Week proclamation at the first meeting in September. So we have a copy here signed by the mayor. I think we'll be doing communications out about that too.
Okay.
I'm going to put these back in.
Chair, there was when Chris mentioned that there was the shifts are covered from 9 to noon. So 8 to 9, is that something critical, or is that some people don't show up during that time?
Chair and Commission, 8 to 9 was, we didn't have any signups. I would say it's, if you can make it, great. If you can't,
Okay.
sometimes it's better to have more people manning a table. It draws people in, so.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I see the proclamation here. I apologize for that. And do you have enough people signed up for the?
Chair and Commission, we have enough people signed up currently. So I think we have 3 people. I think if you are able to stop by and give some time, they would probably love the partnership too.
Yeah, sure.
If anyone's available for the 11 o'clock spot, we only have one person, and for takedown, it would be great to have a helper. I believe that is Commissioner Lewis Miller. She graciously had switched spots with me,
So
so.
you need to have somebody from 11 to noon, or?
It's covered by one commissioner,
Okay.
but since it's a takedown time slot, I wondered if 2 might be helpful at that time, but I know everybody's schedules are very tight, so.
Okay, I can try to be there.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner McCullough. All right, if there's nothing further, then we will go to the last item, which is discussion of the Martin Luther King Jr. essay and portrait contest for youth and Savage's involvement in the MLK Junior Breakfast with the Prayer Lake Rotary. Chris?
Chair and Commission, we have to start planning for, well, we get to start planning for this event again this year. So as a reminder, last year we did the first annual Martin Luther King Jr. essay poetry contest. It was awesome. We had 66 submittals. We had great participation from a number of schools. And basically the winners for 2 categories were selected, and they both presented their essays or poetry at the Prior Lake Rotary MLK event, and then also received an award from the mayor. So I think the CEC intended to continue that program, so we wanted to start planning it now. I think generally we have the kind of the nice, the program built out. So currently the plan is an essay contest for 5th grade to 12th grade, 1 prize for each age category, and then they'll be breaking down into 2 categories, 5th to 7th grade and 8th through 12th grade. Last year, we initially started with 5th through 8th grade, and then upon review of the essays, we determined it was kind of a little too different in what the abilities were. So I think that 5th to 7th grade and 8th through 12th grade is kind of the right fit. We have the breakdown of the requirements for submission, so only 1 submission per individual. They select a quote, and it's the response can be between 400 to 800 words, or write a poem. The work will be accepted in any language. Submissions must be their own work, cannot be AI. The participants must reside or attend schools in Savage. That is one thing we should talk about. One of the things that I think we should do is expand that to any of the surrounding school districts. I think that's something we should talk about here. I do think we had a lot of participation from a lot of people who did not live or reside in Savage, but still were within the Savage area school districts. New this year is, this was Chair Lewis Miller recommended this, is if it is a school assignment, we're asking the teachers to review their student submissions and give us their top 10 or 5 or whatever you feel comfortable with, because it was a big lift to get all those submittals and review them. And then, yes, and then I just have when they should be submitted by. So that should be in January. We'll kind of work out what those final timelines are based on the CEC meetings there. One of the things too that last year, all participants got an MLK essay contest shirt. We had a lot of people not pick up their shirts, which was unfortunate. So I wanted to sort of explore what this group has in terms of thoughts about if we want to do a shirt again. We could also just say we're going to do, we're going to buy X number of shirts, first come, first serve. We could look at other things too. So we could just hand out Savage branded hats, something to that extent. So I wanted to explore that with this group too. And then kind of finally, the question is, do we want to partner with the Prior Lake Rotary again for that event and work with them to be part of that MLK breakfast? One thing I do want to note is we did request an increase to $3,000 for the CEC budget this year. Council is not recommending that. They're having us stay at that 1,500. So we do have, I think we had enough funds for last year because we had a lot of participation, but just note we don't have additional money to work with for 2026. So at that, I'll sort of open it up to the conversation. Again, I think the question of do we want to expand it to all the surrounding school districts is something that I would like a decision on. I think, yeah.
Can I have a
Thank you. Chris, yes, Commissioner Ahmed?
Yeah, the last year was the first year we did this, I think.
Yep.
And I thought it was very, very, very well. I really liked it. I think the students were quite excited. And I made a note of some of the challenges that I saw. One, you already mentioned, had to do with when we evaluated the entries, it was too much. So that would help. But a bigger question that I have has to do with the spirit of the contest or the event. And how do we recognize and who do we include? In my opinion, it should really be students around the community, not just one school. And if I remember for last year, it got into a little bit of a tricky because I think that Prior Lake Rotary was only going to award if it came from the Prior Lake High School. And that, I don't think we're going to solve it here right now, but we need to think through that because that sends a very different message to the students. Because if you're going to have a conversation and 4 schools are sending in, why is it that only one school gets to all the glory, wider glory? Mm-hmm. So I think we got to talk and find a solution that makes sense because I don't want the kids to do this and at 16 or 17 learn the bitter lessons of what's going on here.
Yeah, Chair and Commission, that's a great point. So in partnership with the Prior Lake and then Savage Rotary, the top, I don't know if the winner and runner-up received some financial award. The city cannot provide that, but I think that'd be as part of the conversation is if we want to partner with the Prior Lake Rotary, we'll probably reach out to the Savage Rotary and figure out how to, what the partnership brings to this equation.
And that, my comment is that I think we'll need some conversations and that'll take some time. But I'd like to get that solved if possible.
Chair and Commission, I think this year, recognizing that we now know of some of those hiccups at the last second, I think it'll be an easier conversation than, I think Friday at 4 p.m. we were on the phone trying to figure it out.
Thank you, Commissioner Ahmed. Commissioner Agunwama?
I'm wondering if it would be helpful to have a direct conversation with someone from the Rotary, because that way we can just be transparent with them prior to even making decisions. So I think that would be really helpful. If there's the chair, I'm not sure what the leader is called at the Rotary. But the second question I had was the T-shirts. A lot of the submissions were from a school or a couple of schools. Is it possible, even though it's belated, can we deliver it to the schools and the teachers and then have them distribute them to the students who didn't get them?
Chair and Commission, that's ultimately what we did.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I didn't want 40 T-shirts in my office.
Okay.
So we worked to say, you guys participated, here's the T-shirts, give them out to your students who want them, and go from there. So.
Because I love the idea of a T-shirt because I think it's just the visual of like people wearing it in the community and celebrating it together. I think that's where I like the idea. So make sure that they got their reward or participation.
And Chair and Commission, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I think we just may want to talk about it. One of the things too is maybe we say students select if they want a t-shirt. It could just be as simple as that because, not everybody's going to want a t-shirt given to them by the city. So if we want to continue down the t-shirt realm, maybe that's an option we choose.
Any other comments from any commissioners?
Yes, I would have.
Commissioner John Grass?
I would also say if this is being assigned as a mandatory class assignment, to me, that feels maybe against the whole idea of a contest like this. It feels more like kind of forced into entry. So if a student doesn't necessarily want to enter a contest, they should have the option of not entering a contest if it's a given class assignment where they have to do it.
Chair and Commission, if my memory serves me correct, I believe it was not a forced assignment. I think it was for extra credit, which I was like, well, I don't dislike it. Again, I get it's if they don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. But I think a lot of students chose to do it, and I do think from what we got, people did spend the time and put the effort in. So I was very impressed with the level of work that was submitted.
I hear your spirit behind it. Having 4 children of my own, sometimes I feel like, actually sometimes kids want to do it, but because their classmates or peers are like, oh, it's not a good idea or whatever, they might not do it. So on the other hand, sometimes encouraging them with a little bit more, like the extra credit part, I like that kind of, just to give them that motivation and, we have to do it all, but they actually enjoy doing it. So that's my experience with my own children.
All right.
Okay, anyone else? All right, okay then. So then next is informational updates. Chris?
Chair and Commission, just to reiterate, so we want to continue with the MLK essay poetry contest. Sounds like they're still interested in exploring shirts or something similar there. It seemed like there was some interest in making the surrounding school districts also be able to participate. And then we want to start having a conversation with the Rotary sooner rather than later. So I think that's something that we already have some Rotary. Yep. We have some folks on this group, so maybe we can have a meeting to sort of start those conversations and update the CC at the next meeting. So Rotarians.
One more addition. I know last year we talked about having like a little book of all the, submissions. If that's a possibility, that'd be great if we could consider it. I know there's an expense with that, but, and obviously we have to get consent to do that for each of the submissions.
Very good idea.
Yep.
Chair, can I add something?
Yes, Commissioner Nelson?
If we don't have the budget for some reason, we could do an electronic version that they could access, and if anybody needs to request a written copy of it, then we could provide that. I'm not sure how our finances will turn out, but a QR code and a link.
Yeah.
Someone could download a real nice PDF too, if we're, depending what the cost would be.
Chair and Commission, that's a wonderful idea. So just kind of because I want to start doing some research now, would that be something that each participant gets a copy? Is that something we just want to keep a copy here and like at the library? What does that look like?
Oh, both of them sound great.
I think if it's digital, you just have a handout or a page on the site or something where people can access and download their PDF. Does that make sense? Did I cut you off?
Oh, no. I was saying actually both sound good. So like the electronic, but then also a nice hard copy here and,
And at the
something for people to
library
see to, yeah, I think that's great.
It could even be on a big poster board as you're walking in or something. Or a blurb in the city, in the city water bill too after the contest. But to see all the submissions, scan this code and take a look.
Chair and Commission, I'm 95% sure we did actually do that. So I think in some of the marketing out once the competition, I think we did. We had the winners, and then here is all the submissions. So.
And I think also like being February is Black History Month too, I know that the library usually has a display of like books that you can check out too, so we could have, maybe a copy they're available for people who want to check out the recommendations that go out to community as well.
Cool.
And I think even as you look into like Black History Month too, do we want to have one of maybe the students want to come and say their poem or something as we kind of plan the Black History Month in the months to come, so.
great ideas.
And then, Chris, did you talk about consent for these students if they wanted this information out because they're minors? I can't recall if we had that conversation last year.
Chair and Commission, we did not have that conversation last year. I think by the way we posted is if you submit it, it is giving us consent that we
Okay.
will release it. I do think that's something I always have a note because I think I'll want to just, again, clarify with the teachers or any teachers that are interested in that, so.
Okay. Right. Thank you, Chris. So then, we can go to informational updates. When you're ready.
All right. All right, Chair and Commission, for informational updates, it is our last Streets and Tunes, the 16th, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Creek Hill Park. Just a reminder, Welcome Week tabling this coming Sunday, 8 a.m. to noon, Savage Farmers Market. We have the historical tour of Savage, which I believe is filled. So if you have interest, I think there's names on wait lists. But yeah, that has been a very big hit, which is great. We have the Little Fall Fest and Apple Dash, 9/27/2025 at the Wildflower Early Learning Center from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. All this information is on our rec website. Just a reminder, we have the DEI Commission Forum, 9/30/2025 from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Minnetonka Community Center. Again, really great opportunity to meet other commissioners and staff doing this work in other cities. I'm going to try to be there. I'm not entirely sure if I can make it yet. So if you have an interest in going, please reach out to me. I believe Commissioner Ahmed is planning to go. So if there's an opportunity to carpool too, I think he was willing to look into that. So send that to me if you want to go. Something also to note, it is National Suicide Prevention Month. So I think we're doing communications around that. So I just want to note that. And then on the 15th begins the Hispanic Heritage Month. So we'll also do some external communications around that too. And we had one final update that was sent to me kind of right before this meeting is we have the fire open house. Let me pull up my information. On October 11th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., I believe that's a Saturday. Our main firehouse was remodeled recently, so it's a great opportunity for the community to come and see the new remodel, play with an inflatable bounce house. There's fire extinguisher simulator, just a fun time to hang out with the fire folks. So I just sent that invite out too. So yeah, that's what I have for informational updates.
Thank you, Chris. Any updates from any commissioners? Chris, if I may just add that today it's 9/11, so in honor of all those who passed away on 9/11 24 years ago, I understand, from my memory, and so just honoring those who served too, like during that time, the firefighters, police officers, and acknowledging the loss that that families experienced on that day. So.
Go to acknowledgement.
Well, if there's nothing else, then our meeting is adjourned. Oh, I am so sorry. Do you need a motion to adjourn?
Commissioner John Grass would motion to adjourn.
Commissioner Ahmed, I seconded.
Commissioner John Grass made a motion. Commissioner Ahmed second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right, motion has passed. The meeting is adjourned.